Hey guys, what is up? Eben here. With Classic fast approaching, many people are undecided on what class and role they'd like to play. Druid in Classic WoW was always known as the underdogs and was not very well represented. As someone who's played Druid in Classic WoW all the way up through Legion, I want to talk to you about the pros and cons of the Druid class in Classic WoW. Obviously, when I make content, I try to show Druids in the best light possible. Because of this, I want to highlight their strengths and weaknesses in this video. As the class is a lot of fun, but it's definitely not for everyone, and there is a reason why it is the least played class. While opinions may vary, these are what I have found to be the shortcomings of the Druid class. So first we're going to cover the flat out cons of the class, and then moving forward we'll cover a few points that could be considered a pro or a con, just depending on the player. And then finally finishing off the pros of the Druid class. So the first negative about Druid class in Classic is macros. Druids are a very heavy macro class, with shifting forms, managing cooldowns, relying on macros to help swap gear, weapons, check for hots, cancel forms, and this is just to name a few of the macros that you'd need. Once you have your hotkeys and macros set up though, it becomes second nature. But it definitely will require some setup time at the beginning. Okay guys, I'm slipping this one in here too after I actually recorded all this. This is another negative for me, and the negative here is that on Horde side, you only get to be Tauren. I know this is not a huge deal for a lot of people, but the problem with Druids is you don't have very many race selection options, so you're kind of stuck with either Night Elf on the Alliance side or Tauren on the Horde side. So kind of a small one, but this is something that kind of bothers me, as I would much rather play, an undead or an orc on the Horde side. So the next negative that we come to is that you often go unnoticed for your work within groups and raids. In PvE and raiding, it's easy to see who's performing the best based off damage meters and healing meters. And most classes, at the end of the day, they come down to raw DPS or raw healing. With Druids, you're never going to top DPS meters, and you're never going to top the healing charts unless you drastically outgear the entire raid. So your performance is much more nuanced. For example, you need to be managing your priest's mana and innervating the correct target. You need to make sure you're not overlapping hots with other Druids. And you need to understand that in raiding, you actually use healing touch much more than your hot, so you'll actually be using a D-ranked healing touch. And as a Druid, you need to leave your competitive edge at the door and be a team player. You're not going to be the best in terms of raw damage or raw healing, but you're filling a vital role, and it's important even if the numbers don't show. And that's going unnoticed in PvE, but in PvP and Battlegrounds, it is the same story again, but more blame can be placed on your shoulders. Druids in PvP, regardless of specialization, are going to be used as group utility. You are filling the gaps of the group and you're aiding your team. It's a very satisfying role, yet it often goes unnoticed. While your warrior is demolishing people, your priest is busy dispelling and healing, and your mage is locking down healers and supplying the burst damage. You find yourself removing curses, poisons, rooting people, peeling for your team, spot healing here and there, and using your bash and feral charge to interrupt key spells. Your team will use you where they feel you are needed. You might sit a base on defense, or you'll find yourself going to stealth caps with rogues. Since you have so much to offer, you'll be thrown around the battlefield to fit a variety of roles. But when the match is over, often your work doesn't shine as bright as other classes in your group. But as a humble Druid, you praise your warrior for his awesome burst, pat your hunter on the back for the great job defending, and you cry a little inside when the rogue is congratulated on amazing ninja cap. That wouldn't have been possible without you being there. I know I'm being a little dramatic here, but overall Druids are there to enable their team, which to me is a great feeling, and I love being able to help the whole group really do it all. But if you're a player that looks to shine through and stand out, a different class might be best for you. So the next bummer as a druid is you lack real burst or CC. Now you can handle yourself in most 1v1 fights, and you can often run if the outcome doesn't look good, but you struggle anytime there's an additional player involved. As a mage, you can burst down a rogue while a priest wanders aimlessly around as a sheep. And as a warlock, you can chain fear or seduce an obnoxious mage while you crush his friend with like a nasty Shadowbolt, Shadowburn combo. Yet as a druid, you slowly run doing everything you can to kill one of the two players, and you don't have the burst needed to finish him off quickly before he gets help. So a good way to look at the druid class is you work hard for all of your kills, but you can get most of your kills. Whereas a hunter, you might get an aim shot, multi-shot crit and instantly blow up a mage. A druid, you need to actively play out the whole entire fight. So this leads to the first pro and con. So my analogy with the druid class is when you look at WoW as a whole and the classes that are offered, warrior is kind of like a giant sledgehammer, just crushing through any opponent that stands in his way. A mage is like a flamethrower, just demolishing any object in front of it with fire and frost and all that. Whereas a druid is more of like a Swiss Army knife. And if you think of the analogy of a Swiss Army knife as a druid, you have to kind of use all the tools within the Swiss Army knife. So you're using, the little teeny knife, then you're using the small screwdriver, and then the can opener. And you just have to do much more to get a kill or to perform within a group in a PvE situation. But it is a very satisfying class at the end of the day. So that's why I feel this is kind of a pro and a con. And the druid has so much in their toolkit that they can outplay most classes. But as I said, each fight is a work to dismantle your opponent slowly. So to piggyback on the last pro and con, we move to skill of a druid. So druids have a fairly high skill floor, that meaning that you can't just pick them up and be good at them. Whereas like a mage as a class, you can kind of pick up a mage and do decent damage right away. Even if you're just frostbolt, 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 or fireball, 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 you're still doing good damage. So that player might not excel at the kiting, peeling, and cooldown management that a good mage has, but you can at least have fun and kill other enemies. Once you reach the skill floor as a druid, and you have a general knowledge of the class, it becomes quite a lot of fun. Yet, when you have reached this point, you also realize how much more there is to master. For example, flag running is a completely separate playstyle and skill set than, say, world PvP or raiding as a druid is. And so this is the reason why it is a pro and a con, because while the class can be hard to pick up and learn, it is extremely rewarding when played correctly, and when you're constantly learning and adapting your playstyle. So you're always learning, like I'm saying, and groups will utilize your toolkit differently, and you'll be asked to fill different roles often. So you're always on your toes and you're always learning. So it allows you as a player to not burn out as quickly and rewards you for your hard work and dedication to the class. And last but not least, an amazing druid really stands out. So here's our first pro. You hold your own in the world. Even if you suck at PvP, you can just avoid it. If you know how to root, put rejuvenation on yourself, and you can spam travel form, you can get out of most PvP fights. Because of this, people tend to leave you alone in the world as they just don't really see you as being worth their time. Almost like a paladin. But if you don't want to run from PvP and you actually want to actively participate, the great thing about druids is you get to dictate the fight. Because you have stealth, you can choose when to open, what gear to wear, how to handle the fight, and much, much more. And like I said, if you don't get the opener, you can just run. So another pro is for a hybrid class, you can farm very easily. As demonstrated in my previous video, druids can farm gold and materials in the world very easily for a hybrid or healing class. That's not to say that you're going to be better at AoE farming than a frost mage, for example, or that you have, better capabilities than, a hunter doing DM runs or Mara, but you are able to still do these things. So this allows you to farm gold and materials much quicker than, say, a shaman, a paladin, or a priest. Okay, so another pro is that they're fast levelers. I know this isn't as big of a deal because once the leveling process is over with, then you're stuck at 60 with a class that you're playing. So you shouldn't really dictate what class you're going to play based off the speed of leveling, but this does happen to be a pro. They are fast at leveling. Like I said, there's not much more to say here. They're quick. I'll go over some tips and tricks for leveling as a druid in an upcoming video. So stay tuned to that one. Shout out to Treggy for the suggestion on my YouTube comments. Okay, so here's our last pro. It really isn't a pro or a con, but it's just the overall feeling that I get when playing a druid. And I think only other druid fanatics can really understand what I'm talking about. Like, to me, a druid is something I will play just because I never feel disappointed with the class. I'm never bummed out that I can't take part in something because druids truly have it all. Anytime I play a different class, I just miss having certain things. So like as a druid, I have stealth, I have heals, I have the ability to tank. I never have to sit a slow. I get out of most CC. Druids laugh when a mage tries to polymorph us. And so we like bring a little bit of everything to a group. And so when you go and play a different class after playing a druid, you just feel less. I don't know how to describe it really. But I just feel like druid is so capable of so many things that's what makes it fun for me personally. But I definitely understand the love for bursty classes like mages and warriors, and I understand the playstyle of every other class as I have played most other classes. And yeah, getting crazy crits and blowing people up as an elemental shaman and things like that is extremely rewarding. But for some reason, druid is just what sticks with me and just resonates with me as a player. So that's kind of the pro for me, if that makes sense. I know a lot of people always ask like why I enjoy the class, and I think it's just because you can kind of do everything, so it just allows you to enjoy the game and not get burnt out on a class and kind of really put all your time and effort into one class. And you can have so many different sets of gear for different situations. And yeah, I'm kind of rambling, but in general, that's what makes druid so fun for me. Anyways, guys, that wraps up the pros and cons video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions of things that I might have missed out on, positive or negative, go ahead and comment below. Thanks again for everyone's support. I really appreciate it. We're growing pretty quick, and that's in a big part because of you guys. So thanks a lot. That's about it, guys. I'm going to wrap up here, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.